Welcome to the Millennial Diner podcast. I'm here at the diner with Phil, and today we have our friend Billy's here with us. Say hi, Billy.
Hi, nice to be here, guys. Really good to be here, especially I'm starving.
Excellent. Well, that's great because Flo's here to take our order. I'm going to go first. You know what? Grilled cheese today. Grilled cheese with sweet potato fries. Of course, that cheese is going to be Daya cheese.
Of course.
Because there was a pop-up here in LA not so long ago called Riot Grill, and they had a grilled cheese with Daya, which they called the Saves the Daya. So I feel like that's what I'm feeling today.
Very appropriate.
It's
of course,
comforting.
thank you. And of course, coffee with oat milk.
Oh, good.
Again with the oat milk.
Me? I hope this doesn't seem overboard, but I don't get out to the diner enough, so I'm just gonna check all my boxes. I'd like a hot open roast beef, please, with mashed potatoes and spinach as sides, and then a cup of chicken matzo ball soup and a chocolate egg cream.
Oh, that is like the premier order of a diner. It's like it's the all-star diner order, really.
Yeah. I mean, and I wish I could say that was like, a special occasion. If I'm walking into a diner, that's what I'm gonna get.
Nice.
That's every time.
Yeah, that's such a. I feel like I could smell the diner around us with that. I am going to
Phil,
go,
I was gonna say, are you inspired by that order to really go to town here?
Yeah, I'm gonna live a little bit. 2 slices of rye toast.
Nice.
A little bit of butter. And black coffee. That sounds good. Let's do that today.
Oh man, it's a Jim Jarmusch order at the going to the diner.
I'm ready. Let's go. I'm ready.
No protein whatsoever.
No, I just live off animosity and coffee. That's really where I live.
That's my guy. I've known you so long.
Oh, goodness gracious.
What are we here to talk about, fellas?
Yeah.
Jeff. Go ahead.
No, he said Phil, and I jumped right in there like a jerk.
Oh no, I said fellas, but what
He
are we?
said fellas. Yeah.
Oh, I heard Phillas.
It's a throw. I'm just trying.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, we are here because we need to discuss one of the most important rock albums of the year 1999,
Yes.
by a New Jersey band called Saves the Day. They put out an album called Through Being Cool on Equal Vision Records. Came out November 2nd of 1999. Important to note, we've talked about this before. This is a post Enema of the State album, and I feel like Enema of the State, we look back at things, is very important to the launch of this era of punk and emo. So much to the fact that I think the reason I even found out about this album and this band was I think I read an interview with Blink-182 that year in like Spin Magazine, and they were all given their picks of the year, and one was like Jimmy Eat World, Clarity, and then one was like the Get Up Kids, and then the other one was Saves the Day, Through Being Cool. So that's kind of where I literally was inspired by Blink-182 at that era to even find this band.
I think I found this band because you told me about this band.
That makes sense.
That would make sense. Yeah, with you boys knowing each other at the time and all. I would meet you both. 2 years later? A year later, I guess.
About a year, but within a year, yeah.
Within a year later. That's correct.
I remember how I found out about this album. I was in my high school gymnasium, and the very vivid memory that we had those kind of rafters that would pull out and then go back into the side to like kind of make stadium seating or not, depending on if you had people there. And they hadn't pulled them out, but there was like a little lip. If you climbed up on them, you could sit on them. And this kid, Ozzy, was up there, and he had a Discman, and he said, you should listen to this song. And he didn't play the first track, he played the second track for me. So the first Save the Day song I ever heard was You Vandal. And I understood like the little snippets of what he was saying that I caught, of all these evocative words that he was using. I was like, oh wow, this is something different, but it sounds like stuff I've heard. It doesn't feel like stuff I've heard. And yeah, I was hooked. I had no idea it was going to be something I'd be talking about 25 years later, but here we are.
Oh, for sure. I'm so excited that, first of all, the story of Ozzy showing you Vandal is like, just that sentence alone feels like an oral history that you would have on like a time period band like this. But You Vandal, when we'll get into it as we go into it, is such a perfect song to hear first. I really think that song encapsulates everything that Saves the Day does so well.
Yeah.
That song is like this is what you would study in a literature class if you were
No,
studying
yeah,
Save the Day.
it seems like a grandiose statement, but you're absolutely right, because it just it's like 2 minutes and 15 seconds. If that, I should just look at the album right now as we talk about it. I should pull it up, right? But no, it covers so much emotional ground in that breakneck boom bop boom bop boom bop pace that it goes at.
It's a
Well,
very, very fast album. Very
Yeah.
the band. Well, it's funny because they continue where they left off with Can't Slow Down. There it is.
Yeah.
And then kept this pace up, but then the next album they kind of abandoned that. And they kind of go much slower on the next album.
Right.
it
Well,
feels
they
like
thought-
they're sorry. Feels like
They
their
figured out
first.
they could slow down is what it is. But go ahead.
No, yeah, exactly. It's the perfect evolution, I think, of this band. Those first 3 albums, you can't slow down. Everyone points out is very much like, oh, they listened to a lot of Lifetime, and they wanted to do like a melodic hardcore album, and that's where really Can't Slow Down kind of lives. And this one is like the one where like they step out, and the pop element comes very much shooting in and all over the songs. And then you get to the next one, Stay What You Are, and that's when like they have embraced being one of the most important bands in the emo scene. Bill, so since we're talking about Save the Day and they are connected so much to the emo and the pop punk world, where do you come in from this? What was your kind of like, your friend showed you this song, but like if you look at this whole genre, like kind of how would you describe your relationship with it?
You got to go back a couple of years, and I mean, at this point, I'm in high school. I've got my own sense of what my taste in music is, and like when you're a kid, your music taste is kind of like your parents or your older brother, whoever your influencer's music taste is, and you don't have your own thing. And I remember the first time I had my own thing, and it was Columbia House, right? You know, you could order albums.
Mhm.
And I remember the first 3 tapes I ever got. And looking back, it really feels like just kind of like throwing stuff out there and seeing what I wanted, but just based on what was popular, right? And the first 3 records I ever got were on tape from Columbia House, and they were Super Unknown by Soundgarden, No Need to Argue by the Cranberries, and the one I say for last appropriately was Dookie, right? So I got Dookie in 1993 when it comes out. And I like rock, and I got grunge. I understood it. I'm wearing a checkered shirt right now, for Christ's sakes, right? But like, and I would come back around and really, really love pop. As a 40-plus-year-old man, I adore pop music, and I can't stop listening to Vampire by Olivia Rodrigo, right? But Dookie set the tone for the next 10 years, without a doubt. And just like understanding like 3-chord power pop punk and how alive that felt and how it made me feel as a kid and then as a teenager, like that was what I wanted to be spending my time doing. Those are the people I gravitated towards. Those were the shows that I went to. Those were the kinds of songs that the friends that I had that were musically inclined were making, right? And then you're very right to identify Enema as like an epochal moment. And it's funny to think that, you know, Save the Day writes this record not knowing about Enema yet, but Enema would come to define the period so much. And I will confess that I got to Blink way late. And I heard Damn It on the radio, but I wasn't like, oh, I gotta seek out that band or that album or whatever. I saw Enema blow up, and that was the first time that I ever really paid attention to Blink, and that opened my eyes to like, though there's a whole scene around this. It's not just like what 92.3 K-Rock is feeding me. There's more to seek out that doesn't make it to the radio. There's stuff that's worth listening to that your friend needs to show you about, and that gets you to the gym that day in 1999. And Ozzy knew me, I knew him, he knew the kind of bands I liked, and I don't know when somebody told him to pick up Through Being Cool, but he had to have gone and buy it, because this is before burning. You couldn't burn a CD at this point, so he went and bought Through Being Cool. He had it in his Discman, and he played You Vandal for me, which I would imagine he had on repeat if he didn't play All Star Me for me. And that's it. I was hooked, and then I went and bought it, and I remember listening to those songs and imagining that I was at the party that's like behind us right now, even if that's like beside the point. And like they actually kind of like soft disowned the aesthetics of the album, and like the cover and the flip through story after the fact. I don't know. I think maybe we're not even talking about this album if they don't choose this cover, and that's kind of crazy to think about. Opposite of not judging a book by its cover, but here we are.
Well, it's funny because like I guess I never realized there was blowback to this cover, and like as I was reading it, like apparently it was a big deal, especially coming out of like a hardcore scene, for them to like show their faces and like really kind of like pose as a boy band almost.
Yeah, who are these guys? The Beatles, you know?
Yeah.
But what I like about the cover is, but they're outcasts, right? I mean, they're at the party, but they're not enjoying it. They're on the couch. I mean, alone, not talking to anybody, but to themselves.
Everyone's backs to them. Yeah.
Yeah, everyone's back to them.
Except
her.
Except her. Yeah, right.
Yeah. She's taking a look.
Yeah.
I pulled out the vinyl for this one. Oh, yeah.
No.
So I got the liner notes.
Yeah.
Because the story, I think, is I forgot about the story. I hadn't looked at this thing in over 20 years. So
yeah, sure.
I was like, what is this again? And I was looking at it, and yeah, it's a silly little story about everybody at the party. They're all having very different experiences. The fella making out with the woman on the couch next to one of them is actually the lead singer of Midtown and Cobra Starship.
That's right.
It's a little connection there from that New Jersey scene.
Do you know the other celebrity Easter eggs on in there?
The guy asleep on the back of the album is somebody, right? Like
that's right. That is Ziggy Sabatka from season 2 of The Wire.
That's crazy.
Yeah, the guy on the couch. Isn't that great?
That is great.
You want to talk about Sleeper? Second season of The Wire. People want to talk shit, but the 4th season doesn't hit the way it does if you don't spend time with the stevedores at the docks. That's all I'm saying.
See, Phil, that's how you do a hot take.
That's good.
One that is defendable and won't get you angry letters.
No, I'm gonna say this. Billy brought up grunge a minute ago. I'm gonna say if there were seasons, grunge would be winter, and pop punk would be summertime.
Sure. Yeah. What bridges those in the spring? That's a whole nother podcast, I feel like.
What bridges those in the spring?
Reggae?
New ska?
Maybe ska.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's just stick the dial a little wider and make it third wave ska.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Billy, you bring up you talk about a lot of different types of music. Enjoying different genres. I actually am very curious because you was Saves the Day the band that like you'd say got you into the scene? Like really into the scene? Okay.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about it because I was a commercial rock fan. I never Saves the Day can lay claim to being the first you had to hear about them band that I ever heard about because my media diet before, we're talking dial-up internet. So it's really much a zine culture. It's a going to shows and getting records handed to you. And luckily I was hanging out with people that knew about this band. I don't know when I might not have come in until the Stay What You Are cycle if I didn't know about, some of the songs because there are other moments you could have gotten in because Shoulder to the Wheel had its moment too, where you could have maybe caught that in pop culture if you were listening in the right corners, but like it was really it felt cool. It felt like I was in a club and it felt like I knew about something that was really, really good. And I knew it was good qualitatively, like it was really good and important. And it's nice to see that borne out with us talking about it. And, just think about the wealth of information and the wealth of stuff that I had at my fingertips to read about this album, researching this episode. It's been talked about. It is maybe the seminal late 90s emo album. It's hard to what else could lay claim to it? It's tough.
No, it is. It definitely holds that title, I think, because it really is the distillation of all the kind of bands that were in this scene at that time, because it's got the hooks, it's got the sing-alongs, it's got the chorus, it's got the drive of a hardcore band, it's pop punk, but it just does everything like that. And it's very I think the lyrics at times are evocative and violent and weird, and you're like it really, like, you'll sing along and like I felt like this time going through it, I'm like, wait, what? What is this song? What is he saying here?
Yeah, I didn't think I started singing a song about a spleen and be like, yeah, that's a great song. I love this. Oh, it's a spleen though. I'm like, where is the spleen? I don't even know where the spleen is. I had to look it up.
Felt
Well,
very
funny.
adult.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, it's funny because I thought about like Alkaline Trio would have like violent imagery, but theirs was always kind of tongue in cheek, and they were kind of leaning into this like horror movie gothic, world is kind of like part of their whole oeuvre. But Saves the Day was very much like suburban kids and having these poetic responses to the things you go through as you're growing up.
And it's so overwrought. Like it's dangerously close to like Lisa, You're Tearing Me Apart. Like it's so over the top, and like the fact that they do it so sincerely, and like the hooks are unimpeachable is why they get away with it. And it wasn't like something that you heard, like let me take this awkward saw, running against your thighs. Like
Yeah,
that's
it's just the way he sings. Yeah,
it's
the way
poetry. It's really stupid teenage hormonal poetry, and it's perfect for a stupid teenage hormonal audience.
you know
Well,
what I think one thing I find really funny, you guys both kind of tapped on it, is this band, the scene was being built. It's funny, this album came out, the scene is being built at this point, right? It's not even a scene yet, really. It's just that emo scene is where the Enema, the late 90s is where it starts really going. It doesn't break until really, I think, until early 2000s, where you really, then you have the seminal year of 2003, right, Jeff? Where basically the scene bursts wide open.
And it's funny because you look at this and like the emo aesthetic hasn't locked in at all yet, like even a little bit. Like there isn't a lick of emo imagery here. Like there's no black swoop hair, there's no eyeliner. Like these are like dorky suburban kids. Like
Yeah,
I think
went to
is
the Gap.
and it's the point. Like because I
Yeah.
look like these. Like I can't tell you how many plaid socks I bought and wore because Chris Conley has plaid socks showing on the cover of this record.
The
That's a
plaid sock industry really Saves the Day. That really saved the day for them.
Yeah.
Billy, who would you put if you were to build a Mount Rushmore of bands? So your big four bands. Who would you put on that?
That's funny. I've been asked to do Mount Rushmores before, and I don't know if I've ever done like an emo pop punk Mount Rushmore. Is it? Am I defining the parameters right? Like pop punk.
You could be anybody. No, they could be anything for you as a music appreciator.
Oh man,
what would you put on it?
I could tailor this to what we're talking about, or I could take like a big swing of like what made my music taste what it is. And you two know the answer to one of these. And the first one I gotta say then is Radiohead, because I was for a while the obnoxious I'm a Radiohead everything guy in my 20s, which was my second big persona after being into this kind of music in high school, which is kind of funny. But
I remember walking around college, and every time it was a dry erase board, you would write Kid A on every one, or like Kid A was here or something like that, and we'd run away because I was like, we can't just keep writing Kid A on everything. But
no, but I did, and it was a victimless crime at the time. But yeah, this was Kid A's album cycle, like and I thought I was again in on a secret, like, oh, this is really important and different and cool. And again, I was right. Kid A was like definitely an iconic seminal album. But anyway, my prognostication aside, Radiohead would definitely be on mine. I would say with full confidence that I have to put Green Day on there too, for the same reason that like Dookie and, to a lesser extent, Insomniac and Nimrod and what would come after that in the 90s really set the course for like what I first discovered was my taste in music. And it was like good power pop punk, like melodies, harmonies, like good tight songwriting and structure. Like I appreciated the craft of good rock songwriting. And like one thing you could say about all of these records that we still talk about now is that the songs hold up because they were written well and they're really well structured, and they stand the test of time. And I think that even then, even if I couldn't articulate it, I appreciated the artisanship and the craftsmanship of doing it the right way and having it built to last. So Green Day fits those. The Green Day writes really tight, good pop songs. So there's 4 presidents on Mount Rushmore, right?
That's right. Currently, we'll see what happens down the road. You never know. Fifth might get added.
Might warrant further desecration of that mountain. The influence of electronic music on my taste and my interests can't be overstated. So Aphex Twin would have to be on mine,
Oh, cool.
which was the first time somebody sat me down and said, no, you don't know the width and breadth of electronic music. You're thinking of KTU, which is a radio station that plays like uns dance music on the East Coast.
Right.
So they played Richard D. James' album for me, which came out in 1996, but I didn't hear it until the early 2000s. And it's crazy to think that that album came out in 1996. That was my entry point to electronic music. Same thing where I could recognize song structures. I could recognize the musicianship behind the choice of instrument, which was completely synthetic. And it was really invigorating to understand that there was a whole concept, whole world of music out there predicated off of that idea. And I gotta take it back to the granddaddy of, who writes songs that stands the test of time, and who do we still talk about? And it's the Beatles, and it's obnoxious, but Christ on a stick, did we get lucky to have those three together? No slight to Ringo, but who's a very accomplished dude in his own right, but like the fact that any of those George Harrison songs saw the light of day from underneath the oppressive brilliance of the Lennon-McCartney partnership, it's a remarkable thing, and we're talking about it 60 years later. We're going to talk about 100, 150, 200 years later. As long as we last, we'll be talking about the songs that those guys wrote in that brief, wonderful period in the 60s.
Talk about learn how to write a pop tune. Just study anything that Lennon and McCartney wrote.
I also like that. I love that, bringing up the Beatles, and as you said, there this brief period, because what always blew my mind about the Beatles was actually looking at the time frame between the first album and the last album, how quick of a turnaround that was. But it also harkens back to what you said earlier about even how well written these pop punk emo songs were in the late 90s or to the mid 2000s. These were like kids, basically. Like the thing about Save the Day, this album was probably written when they were 19, 20, they were in college. Mm-hmm. And going back to the Green Day of it all, they were clearly Green Day kids. They were also radicalized by Dookie, like so many people were. That was really the beginning of this millennial music chapter.
It really is. It really is the starting point, isn't it? Really, you kind of starts there, and then goes in the upper echelon, the next level with Anima. Yeah, now I'm trying to think what would be what would bring it on in the third. I'll think on it. I love the spread of your picks, Billy. I love the spread of it.
Thank you. You want to know? I've done the beats of it, like that you just started. Beat 1 being Dookie and beat 2 being Anima. Beat 3 is Black Parade.
Yeah,
it really is. You're right. It's Black Parade. You're right. And then that's it. And now it's just a thing. It's like everybody knows. You play. I talk about it on the Black Parade album, but play one note and you're gonna know a song. Well, just like that. It's just like with the Beatles as well. You play one note, you're gonna know the song. Hard Day's Night. You do the one note and you know exactly what that song is. Yeah. And then you just play one piano piece, you know exactly what song is about to happen.
Well, it also solidified the aesthetic of this whole genre, right? Like Save Today, we remember when people were wearing preppy clothes and they were emo. That was kind of a thing, you had the corduroy pants or the polo shirt, the small polo shirt.
Corduroy pants. Oh, that's a throwback, my man.
But when we look at the commercialization of what emo eventually what the culture's response is, it really comes out of the My Chemical Romance.
Yep, it does. But you know what?
Also from New Jersey, and on that, as we jump into this album, I'd love to talk about the smell of New Jersey a little bit. In the sense of Bill and I are from Long Island. Billy, you're from Queens.
Right. Now live in New Jersey.
And now live in New Jersey. You've actually done what many people think would never happen, but a New Yorker moving to New Jersey.
Myself included. I never saw it coming. But we didn't, you know what? We didn't see a lot of the year 2020 coming, did we?
That's true.
This is very true. Yeah.
But New Jersey has always been the neighbor. And I think over time, especially when this scene was happening, realize how much of a connection that all the people in this tri-state area had. And this scene was indicative of that, because all these big bands, whether they were from Long Island, New Jersey, just up lower upstate New York, what do you call that
Lower
area?
upstate, whatever you want to call it. I know
Yeah.
exactly which bands you're thinking of, but go ahead.
Hudson Valley.
The Hudson
Yeah.
bands. Yeah.
Well, it just seems like all it. We always thought, like, we grew up knowing like Seattle was like a place that like everything changed, but it was interesting being in a place where this small area that, you know, covered the Rangers, Devils, Islanders, and maybe Flyers, was this hotbed for this whole music scene.
Yeah.
And New Jersey has, now looking back at decades later, New Jersey is one of the most important places.
Which is wild to think about, because its profile, I feel, at the time of the creation of, you know, whatever mythologizing you want to do around this time period in North Jersey, like, it was not cool. Like, there's nothing cool about commuting from, you know, New Jersey Transit to go to classes in Manhattan, or to hang out on weekends to meet your friends. And I got a taste of that doing Bridge and Tunnel thing from Queens, and you would have too from Suffolk County, but like, it didn't feel like it at the time, right? It just felt like our life. It felt like what our friends were doing. Like, the fact that we didn't know that anybody was paying attention feels like a testament to just how insular it was.
Yeah, it really was, because like that was the thing. It was like, it was no big deal for me and my friends to go to Jersey, to go to like Club Chrome in South Amboy. Like this, why would I ever go to this
What
club
else are
in New
you
Jersey?
gonna do?
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. I mean, that's the thing. We took road trips to the Quick Stop, and you know, literally
Pilgrimage?
the pilgrimage. Yeah. So New Jersey just kind of felt like an extension of all this. It was all part of like our playground, if you will.
And you know, so track by track, right? Right off the bat, you got All Star Me on Through Being Cool, and he's setting the scene from the drop. What all the ways we came to this place, yeah. The nice Smell of New Jersey comes up in the next song, but
Yeah.
it's very much time and place though. He's on these rooftops. Highland Park is in the first song. Highland Park, ask me now. Yeah, so he's already name dropping places that you should know about, and like time, like, just, he's not talking about like Broadway, Fifth Avenue, the Sunset Strip, you know. He's talking about like Highland Park, and kind of like the scenes of boring suburbia.
I forget which one it is. I think it's Do You Know What I Love Most? They're in a parking lot, man. Like, that's what we would do. I think it's that song, but I think, or maybe we'll have to get to it. But it's like, you're hanging out in a parking lot. Like, that is what we would do. You didn't have a show to go to. You hang out in a parking lot. Your friends show up, play music, get yelled at by cops.
Yeah.
Friday night.
Well, yeah, and the All Star Me is like, you know, talking about how him and the person he's singing about, whether it's a friend or an object of his affection, we don't know necessarily, but they would go up to the rooftops and kind of sit there and look at the sky, and this idea of like this beautiful sentiment of I climb these mountains of houses every night. This very suburban, like almost. I never sat on the roof, but I'm sure, you know, if I was making a TV show about teenagers in the late 90s, I could see a scene up on the roof. That's where they hang out. It's very like Dawson's Creek, I feel like.
Sure.
Can we just
Saying
also
saying her name?
say their name?
Yeah. So like, very like somewhere out there, like little mouse looking up at the moon. They just say, "Here I am on the roof of my house, saying your name." You know, Millicent or whatever the hell her name was. It's very sweet.
It is. It's very sweet. I just want to say I love the plug-in part opening of it.
Oh yeah.
Of the, like, it sounds like we're about to hear a show, and I think that like they're about to play for us live. I always thought that was one of the neatest things. One part of this particular song that always confounded me was the starches. Anybody know what that means?
That's coming up in You Vandal, right? Oh no, this is
That's
still
funny, yeah.
Core of
Yeah.
Coal and Starches is the, yeah, I don't know. It seems like it was a sound match more than a meaning match, maybe.
I had to look it up because I was like, what the fuck is the starches? Like, I don't know what that is.
And what does genius say?
It is the process of breaking down starch molecules in the presence of water and heat. Here's a question for you. What two themes pop up in a lot of Save the Day songs? water and heat.
Well, there you go. So maybe he's doing a little foreshadowing there. Cool.
Yeah, it is, and I kind of expect that from Columbia University, Chris Connolly.
Yeah, good call.
No,
And he doesn't shy away from evocative imagery throughout the
see,
song.
one thing I like about Saves the Days, lyrically speaking, is they remind me a lot of Bad Religion. And as we all know, I'm a big Bad Religion fan, is that they were not afraid to sound intelligent, right? And use bigger words, higher level, complex thought imagery like that in more of a poetic form. I've always appreciated the fact that they were unafraid to do that.
Yeah, kind of respect your audience type thing.
Mhm.
But I
Jeff-
think All Star Me just sets the table really well. And it like you said, plugs in yearning, pining, evocative imagery, poetic.
Self-loathing, there's in there.
Mm-hmm.
Which is I know Phil, you love titles, which is I think All Star Me is such a fun title for this because this really is someone being like full self-loathing, but like look at All Star Me did this time, screwed up
That's
again. Yeah.
But I wonder because I actually with the starches thing. So apparently when you cook it, it will thicken into a gel and then become a crystalline structure. So I'm wondering if he's like joking around about that like I'll do better next time, right? I'll do it'll be better in the end because like you do the starches, you're in some crystalline structure, which is kind of cool. But yes, the All Star Me is such a funny, cheeky joke at himself, which I think happens a lot during a lot of the songs.
I also like that he sets the table for like how he's going to sing.
Yeah.
With
Yeah.
like, I mean, by extending taste into 5 syllables, right? Hey, yeah. So like if you're not in for that, like buckle up because there's going to be plenty of that.
Well,
It's such a
oh,
unique
sorry.
way of singing. Go ahead, Jeff.
No, I was gonna say, like, bringing it back to the full, bigger emo punk world. Like, I don't remember Tom DeLonge singing like this in '99, but he certainly got there down the line a few years later.
2003, yeah.
Suddenly, "Where Are You" is
Mm-hmm.
influenced by Chris Conley. I don't know.
Well,
That's a hot take. All right, Hey Mail's gonna come to LA now.
No, I'm just forwarding it to New Hampshire.
Yeah, that's all right. I will dance upon them as I sing along to Where Are You?
we've been nipping. Go ahead, Jeff.
I was gonna say, I kind of want to hear that plug-in of the guitar into the amp. So, do you think we should play this one?
I think yes, we should play this one.
Here is All Star Me by Saves the Day. All right, next song is You Vandal. We kind of talked about this a little bit at the top, Billy, because it was the first song you heard by them. So
Right.
Love to hear you dig in on this one.
I like I said, this was my entry point, and you're kind of going to sentimentalize your entry point, but if you're ever going to sentimentalize, at least make it worthy of it. And like this is the platonic ideal Saves the Day song, I think, across their whole output. This is it for me, and it comes and goes in less than 2.5 minutes, but it covers a lot of ground. All that evocative imagery, like Costa Rica, like why, like that's the first time you listen to the song, that's the first phrase that sticks out to you. Like you're kind of trying to hear what he's saying up until that point, and then it's like Costa Rica, and you hear that like clear as a bell, and you're like, oh, like what are you talking about? Yeah, I think that and the other thing that you're gonna need is like a hook that just kills, and this is a killer pop punk hook. Like the endorphin rush of hearing that today, the endorphin rush of hearing that as a 17-year-old, every time in between and all the settings I encountered it, like a good pop hook is a good pop hook, and like crunchy guitars, big OEO sing along, harmony, melody, like lamenting, what can I do? I'm lost. Like it's just deep, good, universal human shit. And if you can crystallize it into something that pure in 2 minutes and change, like deserves to be spoken about decades later.
No, I think that's perfectly said. I mean, I look some of these lyrics, like you said, like the Costa Rica pulls you out, but like then it's like today I can't forget that I've got these open wounds. It's such a drag.
Such a drag. Ugh. Like it's so lived in.
Yeah.
And it's so over the top still. My ribs have parted ways. No.
It's
My
so
ribs
over
have-
the, it's
My
so
ribs
over the
have
top.
parted ways. They've said we're not going to protect this heart that you have. Like it's in quotes, this heart you have. Like it's not, is it a heart? We're not going to protect it.
Yeah, it's
So overwrought. And he's 19. Like that's great. I wasn't that eloquent describing my stupid 19-year-old shit. Like if you're gonna have stupid 19-year-old stuff, at least, man, be that good at describing it.
well, it's also at 19 when your heart is broken or you're longing for something you can't have. That's what it feels like. It really is.
It's like your spleen has been burst open by a direct hit and it's dripping into your pants. Like
Yep.
what an image, man. It's so over the top, but yet I'm here for it because when this dropped, I was like, these guys, well, they were our age. Like I thought that was the neatest thing that this band was like, not if not much older than us, our age, slightly younger than us. That's so cool. And I listened to this song, I'm like, yeah, I've been there. Heart ripped open, like like Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Like a hand would come in and grab it and just rip it out, like take it and throw it away.
But then you come in and you're just like, it's okay, even though I'm dying.
Mhm.
I hope you have a killer time.
Yeah, there's a little bit of the same emotional manipulation that the scene is also maybe in trouble of gearing too deeply into.
Yep.
Hope you have a killer time. Go ahead, go see the volcanoes, go see the rainforests. I'll be fine.
I'll be fine. I'll be fine.
Mhm.
So isn't it even in the title? You vandal, like vandal. First
Yeah.
off, these word
It's
vandal.
so
I think that's.
campy. You
I know
vandal.
it's like you. So is a vandal like a thief, right? A vandal's
Yep.
a thief. Yeah. So what exactly has this person taken from the narrator? Their heart, their yearning for love, maybe, or the ability to love someone. It's just so dreamily over the top. I love it.
I mean, any agency, everything about this guy is now through the prism of this girl in Costa Rica. Like, it's not about the fact that he's fine. He's that I'll be fine by myself. Don't worry about it.
He'll be fine without these bones. He'll be fine.
Right.
Yeah.
I hope this object of affection, whether he or she, never responds to this fella. I feel like the person in Costa Rica is doing just fine and doesn't need. This.
For her own sake, I hope she never interacted with Chris Conley again.
Yeah, probably for the best. Phil, you're gonna have to slow me down on this one because I can't slow down.
Can't slow down.
And I want to listen to this song too. And I have a feeling, at least for the first half of this record, I'm gonna want to hear every song. So, well,
I'll do what I can.
all right.
I'll do what I can.
All right. Well, here's You Vandal by Save Today. And we're back. Third track on Through Being Cool is called Shoulder to the Wheel.
This one stands out as like a teenage ideal memory too.
This really captures, I think, again, I think they're very good at capturing these emotions that you're feeling so high, but like this idea of like whatever happened this night or this day is just too much to deal with, and you just need your friend to drive the car so you can listen to rock out to music while looking out the window. I don't know. It's just it again, even if you never experience this, it feels like you have.
All right. I love that he throws a shout out to the new guitar player by referencing Dave, as Dave is the one to drive. But it's
kind of like go ahead, Phil.
It's just what I like is it's like you said, Jeff. This is a song about running away or driving away from whatever it is. It doesn't matter, but finding comfort in that with playing music and as loud as you can, maybe down a familiar road. Like I remember we would do drives just down LIE or the northern state or the southern state and just go. Just need to get away sometime. It's a feeling of needing to get away that's very familiar and very comforting here.
Yeah, I think it's funny that it's become so universal. Like, this could be anything, because I think it's written about a very specific thing. I think it's them on tour. I think it's them, as like teenagers touring behind Can't Slow Down on a tour where they were opening for hardcore acts or on the same bill as hardcore acts, and they were getting the shit taunted out of them and heckled. And I could imagine, the lead singer, lyricist, songwriter being like, let's just get away from tonight. Literally name checking one of the other guys in the band, like you said, Phil, Dave, just drive. He misses his mom. The radio is playing Queen, like kind of like reinforcing the fact that like all this is worth it. The possibility of life, like I feel like those things are universal, even if he wrote it specifically about like one very bad night that saves the day had.
Yeah, it's using Queen too is really interesting as like the band that you hold as like, this is why we're doing this. Like we're, at some point, everyone starts a band, and well, this scene is a little, some people don't having ambition is like a negative in this scene, but for a lot of these bands, I think that came out this time, like, why can't we be Queen?
Right.
And
My Chemical Romance literally asked that question.
Yeah.
At on the grandest scale.
Yeah, and right. They achieved it.
Yeah. Another huge chorus. Another massive, massive chorus.
Actually, I don't know if you guys noticed this. Again, I never claimed to be a musician or a songwriter. I mean, I dabble here and there in any form or structure. Did you notice how they kind of change up how often they use a chorus in different songs, or how little they use a chorus? Depending on the song, sometimes they only use a chorus twice. This one song, it repeats over and over again. Do you notice that effect when you're listening to this kind of album, how they're kind of playing with that?
I mean, if I could ascribe any sort of meaning to it, like for me, it's like, yeah, I see them doing that and I notice it and I appreciate it. Like, it just feels like hard to define, like, good, makes my brain happy type thing. Again, like not being a songwriter, like I can play the guitar, but I don't write. I'm just the kind of person that like hears a song and wants to learn how to play it, and I'll figure out how to play it type thing. And I know it's like one of those things where like I can't define it, but I know what I like. And this, I like that. I like this. I like patterns and kind of like winking at the structure of things while you're building it.
I do think it's a pop song without being a pop song, but it's a pop song because the repetition. You keep hearing they may not do, it's funny, it's not like a chorus verse kind of thing, but the repetition in the words, which is good because the words are good. Honestly, the imagery they create, the world that's flying by is slick and smooth. It's big waves of light. That's such a visual, because I imagine that's how fast I can see that looking out the window and just things going by at nighttime. And I think using repetitive imagery helps you remember it a bit more, and it adds some luster to it, makes it a little more important. Yeah.
I agree, and I think that it gets to a point where it's almost like a mantra or an incantation, and the whole song drops out, and it's just like the om of it. Which you might hear. Are you gonna play it? I feel like you're gonna probably play it.
Oh, we're gonna play it.
We're gonna play it.
You'll hear
there's no way we're gonna talk about Shoulder of the Wheel and not play it.
Right. That's like going to see Billy Joel and not hearing Piano Man.
No, it's never gonna happen.
Blasphemy.
Do
you want to play it now?
Yeah, let's play it. Let's just go. Please, Dave.
Let's just put our shoulder to the wheel.
Yeah. Here it is. Shoulder of the Wheel by Saves the Day. And we're back. Next track is called Rocks Tonic Juice Magic. What a title.
Ugh.
What a title. Also, I'm going to throw it out there. Remember earlier I talked about there's a connection between water and fire from the first song. This is the first time outside of that song you actually get a reference to either water or fire.
There you go.
Kind of a little theme that runs throughout the album. And it's my favorite line. Anything Saves the Day has ever written. The fire and the ocean floor collide. I just find that to be the most beautiful thing they've ever written.
Huh. You and I are like when?
Fire and the ocean floor collide. Like, that's such a beautifully lit and written line. And it talks about how much of a not antagonistic, but combative relationship maybe that he's speaking about.
How does fire and the ocean floor collide? Like, how does that ever happen?
Only at a volcanic rift would that happen.
Yeah.
and I guess a place of birth and a place of genesis, but also massive destruction. So yeah, that's a very evocative line. Good for a 19-year-old to pull that out of the ether, I'd say.
I wonder if he wrote that was like, guys, check this shit out that I just wrote.
Yeah.
Like, look at this, right? I know I would. If I busted that out at 19, I'd be like, Jeff, you got to see this. Look what I just wrote. This is ridiculous.
And at the time, knowing myself, I would have been like, that's dumb. If somebody showed me that, I'd be like, all right, whatever, Shakespeare, you think you're cool? Mostly out of self-defense. Like,
can we just take a minute and talk about the violence of this song?
yeah, man. The violence of a lot of this record.
I just my notes on this one were like, this is a very violent song because there's an awkward saw. You're gonna dig out eyes like with spoons,
rusty spoons,
rusty spoons with spoons, and they're gonna throw in the act of throwing lemonade in someone's face. It might sound not violent, but honestly, I feel like that's a lot of anger. There, like when was the last time you threw a drink in someone's face?
Just this morning, I couldn't. No, I'm kidding. Lemonade's acidic. That's not going to be nice. That's going to get in your eyes and sting. There you go.
I hadn't even thought about it from that perspective. It is. It isn't it. But I just the idea of like, I was trying to imagine how mad would I have to be at somebody to like walk up and throw a drink in their face.
I've never done it. I've never
done it. Yeah. Jeff, have you ever thrown drinks in someone's face?
Well, look, my history doesn't,
it's not relevant. It's not
relevant to this.
Not relevant.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
I will say this: it has a bit more feminine energy than masculine. Like it's the kind of thing like you've seen presented to you by Hollywood as something a woman does to a man, or reality television, if nothing else.
A drink to the face, yeah, is kind of like the explanation point.
You've said something piggish, and you get your immediate comeuppance is a cocktail in the face.
Do you think that's purposeful then, on his end? If he's going to throw it, I imagine, into the face of a girl.
Oh no, I think he's just a violent, angry boy, and he's again falling back on the emotional manipulation. My heart's on the floor. Why don't you step on it? Like it's like, I mean, it's great, but it's also like grow the fuck up, Chris, a little bit.
Yeah.
But you can. I think you can levy the criticism. Grow up to a 19-year-old because they do have growing up to do.
They do, but I think the heart on the floor, yes, it's very over the top, but it does show a level of vulnerability because his heart is like the other song where the heart is being no longer protected by the lungs or the rib cage or whatever. It's like there's a vulnerability there that because now anything can get to the heart. But yes, he is also like passively aggressively saying, well, it's on the floor. Just, why don't you just put me out of my misery and step on it?
Dig out your blue eyes, swallow them down to my colon. Ugh, come on, buddy.
They're gonna burn like hell tonight.
They are. Why are you gonna make the girl's eyes go through your colon like that? It's just, I mean, it's evocative imagery, but it's a little grotesque and ridiculous at the same time when you unpack it.
Well, it's very gothic. It's very gothic, like real gothic, not like goth. That's a whole musical industry.
Not Robert Smith.
No, not Robert Smith. No, yes, like Mary Shelley, gothic, like real gothic.
Well, there's the toxicity of this scene has always been apparent, especially a lot of these songs, and this one at least is poetic about it.
Right.
But the sentiment when you're distilling it, you're kind of like, ugh, like a lot of inside thoughts that maybe you shouldn't be putting out there, kind of like Pinkerton style, like, whoa, what, are you gonna like,
nobody?
Yeah, really say that. But it is interesting how it starts off really violent with an awkward saw, which first of all is like.
It makes me think of cow tools, honestly.
Yeah,
like, what does an awkward saw look like?
So he's going to cut away some flesh to keep with me tonight, and then he's going to dig out the eyes, but then it eventually becomes throwing lemonade in your face. Yeah. Like, there's definitely like a progression of like...
And listen to you cry. I'm going to listen to you cry. And like, so like, imagine he's going to stand there and kind of watch her cry. That is very brutal and very violent.
Did this girl do anything worse than just not reciprocate his affection? Like that's what you have to ask yourself, because like that's the problem a little bit. That's the problem.
That is the problem. Yeah, and we've seen this before. Like we did a Newfound Glory episode, and like some of those songs are just like so mean spirited. And you're like, I know you're evoking a feeling that you're having here, but the problem is when you put this out here like that, it can be taken and run with by people
Right.
in the wrong way, and which we saw over and over again and still do to this day.
And still do, unfortunately.
What a
Anyway,
crazy
here's
ass
Free Bird.
title. What a crazy ass Free Bird. What a crazy ass title this is. Rocks, tonic, juice, magic. It makes me think of the Red Hot Chili Peppers because they had a song that was
Sugar
like
thing.
Blood Sugar Sex Magic. Yeah. Anybody want to warn a guess where the hell this title comes from?
I do, yeah. No, I think Rock's Tonic Juice is the first part, and that's what you're drinking. And the magic comes from having those first three things. You're having that Rock's Tonic Juice magic. You got rocks is the ice, tonic is tonic water, and juice. Maybe the magic is the gin or the stuff. I don't know.
So we're just talking about cocktails then.
I think we're just talking about being drunk as an underage person, and this is the wild ravings of a drunk teenager whose heart's been broken.
So you just elevated this song even more for me because I was like, that's really
Yeah.
good. I like that. Well, I mean, because let's be honest, that's what New Jersey, Long Island, and the Hudson Valley.
Again, what
Fri-
else are you gonna do?
What else are you
Right,
gonna do,
right.
right? You know, so you all get around you'd find like that one place in the woods where no one can see you, and you all meet there and have your rock tonic juice. Or we did down by the beach a lot until the Suffolk County cops would come and then take all of our beer, keep them for themselves, obviously, and then tell us all to go home. Or we'd hang out in the parking lot. I remember what was the one? Oh, the Borders, out in the Borders parking lot in Smithtown.
Yeah.
Hung out there a lot, doing nothing but loitering.
Hey,
I don't know why anyone ever sold me any sort of alcohol. I don't think I think I just recently started looking 21. It's crazy that I was ever served at any point, especially before I could prove my age. Unbelievable.
did you ever do the thing where you had you asked somebody walking into a 7-Eleven to buy you beers or anything like that?
Yeah, no, but we it usually wasn't a stranger. Like we had people that would help us out, and it was usually older siblings.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it wasn't a complete shot in the dark, but there was still some risk involved. And the logistics always, you had to get the older sibling who was willing to give you the time of day and would devote the time to do it. When it would work out for everybody involved, when it was under the context of a party, and like we're just trying to pick up for the party. And yeah, like your friends are going to be there and his friends and their friends are going to be there. So everybody kind of needs to have the good time.
Well, there was a major motion picture about this and super bad,
What else? Gremlins.
So, and Gremlins, yeah. So
Yeah.
all that. So that was that song. We don't have to listen to that one, but you
Yeah.
should at home because
Yeah,
it is a
check
fun.
it out.
It is definitely a fun song to listen to. Like,
Yeah.
But the next song I want to get to because it's Hollyhock's "Forget Me Nots."
Forget me nots.
This one I really like because while the last one we don't really get any closure, like it seems like there's like angst and anger and toxicity of this person like lashing out. I like this song because there is a full character journey in it.
And again, a water reference.
Oh,
right
yeah.
in the beginning.
Right off the bat, somewhere underwater. Maybe you could find my heart.
It is so over the top. Oh my gosh. But I'm here for it.
Well, you literally have a doctor telling you that every skyline and every night spent alone are tearing you apart or tearing me apart. That's quite a something to learn from your doctor.
If we're talking, we usually end up getting to the titles, but maybe if we front load how good of a title this is. Hollyhocks is the girl's name. Forget Me Not, please don't forget me. But hollyhocks and forget me nots, both different types of plants. Also, like it's just really fun wordplay.
It is fun. I didn't know the flower thing, or the plant thing. I just like the idea of him knocking on the door. Like he's so frustrated, I guess, or
Heartbroken.
heartbroken. He's like literally gonna go bang on the door and talk to her dad.
And the cadence of the guitar line behind him while he's knocking on the door, that's some fun stuff. Did it. Like he's knocking on the door. I just think it's a, again, really well structured, clever written song, right from the title on down.
Well,
I think that's the best way to sum up the band. Clever.
Yeah.
To a point, yeah.
To a point, clever.
In this era of their existence,
yeah,
very clever.
What you say, Jeff?
Oh no, I was just gonna go through the whole storyline of this character who's had their heart torn out of them, destroyed, heartbroken by somebody. It's not going well. They're pretty desperate. They're gonna go to the daughter's house of Mr. Hawks, the daughter who broke his heart, and he's gonna be like, Mr. Hawks, tell your daughter I'm all alone. I'm not handling this well. Like this scene of just like being the father and having this like teenage kid come to you like crying and you're like, your daughter, I'm all alone and I just help me. And
having to tell the girl.
And the guy being like, the dad just being like, okay,
Deirdre, there's a boy outside. He says that you've left him alone or something. Not handling it well. I don't know.
Or if this is like a Seth Rogen or Apatow movie, it's just the part where the dad, played by Paul Rudd, probably is gonna give the kids some advice, like, listen, kid, there's gonna be a lot of girls who are gonna rip your heart out, can't fall apart for everyone.
I was just debating that if this ever happened to me, like, how would I respond to this? And I'd probably try to give him advice, like, this isn't worth it. Just head on out. Well, the dude even realizes he has a self-awareness moment where he's looking at the reflection. He realizes how pathetic this is.
Yeah.
It's pathetic. It is.
No, and advice would be very needed in that moment too, because you've obviously gone astray a bit if you've ended up at Mr. Hawks's door pounding on it. Things are not at their peak. You need some advice in that moment. I feel like I appreciate people like you in the world, Phil.
I'll try. I'm wondering, does the doctor give him the advice to go talk to her?
Is he a doctor? Is it Dr. Hawks?
Well, no, because he went and saw a doctor.
Oh,
he went to see a doctor. Yeah, and he told me about the skyline every night we spent apart. Do you think the doctor was like, maybe you should go talk to her and you'll feel better? Speaking of bad advice.
Yeah, well, you know what? He probably interpreted it wrong. Maybe set up a time to meet her. Don't go accost her at her home.
Right.
Like you said, Jeff, this guy's journey, it doesn't end there. It doesn't end at the porch. He actually reclaims some agency by the end of this song.
Yeah, he, as Phil mentioned earlier, he looks into the water and he literally sees, and I think this is my favorite line of the song and the delivery, the performance of it. Oh my God, I look pathetic tonight. Like, that's the moment, right? That's the light bulb, like, what am I doing? And then the song ends with him diving in the river and fishing out the heart. And not only just is he getting the heart back, he does get to this point at the end of the song where he says, I'm never going to let you get your hands on this again. He's going to be protective of it. Like that really is, that's why I think this song is fantastic. It really takes us the whole way and you leave feeling much better than you started.
I hear that and I agree. It's the most agency I've heard any of his narrators have on any of the songs on the record up until this point. He's like, you know what? I went through the effort of getting this back to where it belongs, and you're not going to get your hands on it again.
Are we going to play this one?
Oh yeah, we are.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right, everybody. Here is Hollyhock's "Forget Me Nots" by Saves the Day. Third Engine. The last song on the first side of the album.
Another water reference. Pool of water. Just saying. I wonder
if he had to go potty like while writing most of this record. Like it's a lot of water flowing and needing to hold things in, let them out. Maybe art is subjective. It's one of the beauties of it. If I want to read that meaning into it, perhaps it's my right.
Well, I don't know. I think it's because the water thing is being on East Coast, this close to water, like the Atlantic Ocean, and being near beaches and boardwalks and all that. And growing up along Long Island, I used, back when I was trying to be a very over the top poet, I often use water as a reference point because we grew up on an island. I had water. One of my favorite places ever to go was Port Jeff. Go down to Port Jeff.
Yeah. You literally grew up on an island. What are you gonna do?
What am I gonna do? I'm surrounded by water.
Brian Wilson grows up surfing and ladies on the beach. Look at that. You get the Beach Boys. You're right what you know.
And the other thing I do on Long Island is I hop on trains like we're doing in this song. We're going to take a train and go somewhere.
Yeah. Sure. It's hard not to focus a little bit on the chorus here, which is, did you know? And again, at the time this was said and the time it was written, it was a bit sweet, but even he's acknowledging that it's kind of like invasive because he's saying, I took the liberty of watching you. Did you know? And did you know, my sweet? Like, where does he want this to land? Like, if he's saying it to her, like, what reaction is he expecting? Because I don't think there's a particularly nice way to hear this news that someone was watching you while you slept.
Maybe he thought it'd be like cute. Like that's how much
Miscalculation, but sure.
miscalculation.
It does not come across that way. Yeah.
That is creepy as fuck. That line is just.
And what was he doing as he watched her in his sleep? He was trying to touch her knees under the sheets, which again, like maybe it's like this play at delicacy and like being just out of reach and unable to bridge a very small divide, but impassable nonetheless. That said, it's just fucking creepy how he's putting it.
Yeah.
And it's almost. Oh, go ahead, Jeff.
No, I just agreeing 100%. It's not like he's not going far to be like, I watch in your sleep and I'm just like adding that extra sentiment of being like, and I just couldn't believe how lucky I am that I'm like, you're in my life. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's a way to like soften it, which he never does. Instead, it's like I'm rolling over in the bed trying to like get my knees touch your knees, like touch your knees in or maybe whatever it is. I don't know. It's just again, we're getting a little bit of like, these are not the things you want to put out there.
Well, and
he's stuck in my head though.
Yeah. And he's on his way to see her. I'm like, and he's like, hey, did you know I'm on my way to come see you? Did you know I used to? Is it cool? Do you think it's cool that I used to like watch you in your sleep? I mean, it's almost like this advance warning. Like I'm on my way, and this is what I do. I watch you while you sleep. Is that cool? Are we cool? And he's getting it pretty fast because the third engine is a reference to the third engine of a train. So usually when there's 3 engines on a train, it's going really fast. Just so you know. Creepy. It's creepy. It's creepy.
And you know what stuck out in my head though until I really started researching this album again? Did you know my sweet? Like just that sound. Like it's funny. Like that's not what stands out in my head. It's just like that in really really good melody again and like a really good chorus. Like divorce what he's saying from how it's being presented, and like that's another really tight pop punk chorus.
Well, yeah, and I think that's the thing. Like you sing along this song so easily. Like I don't think I've ever spent time really looking at what this song was about.
Sure.
Until and that and I think that to play devil's advocate and say it's more of a sweet thing. Like he is going to see this person. They are far away from each other. It's like the longing. That part of it can also, but the word choice doesn't help. It was the other part that I always thought was interesting when he says the person across from me sitting in her train seat remind me of you, and I looked out past her cheeks. That's such like a out past someone's cheek. So like you're looking at their face, but you're kind of like now focusing past it. I don't know. I find that's an interesting visual.
Like it's peripheral.
Yeah.
Looking at someone's face like this
I think
way.
This girl is supposed to remind him of the girl he's going to see. So maybe it's the cheeks is what reminds him of her. Like if that's the feature that's similar.
Okay.
It reminds me. I don't know. If you guys mess with the Wrens at all? But they have a really shattering song called "She Sends Kisses," and one of the best lines is a girl that works at the bookstore. I put her face on you. I put your face on her all year. And it's like he just went to see this girl at the bookstore over and over again, and she was so close to being the one that he would just put her face onto her in his mind.
Oh, that's interesting. I like that.
Yeah. Similar thought, I think. But yeah, I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt, but that's me being a boy and understanding maybe a little bit what he was going for if he didn't quite achieve. It's not the most eloquent execution.
Well, I think at this point in the album, we're starting to get away from the real good stuff, and it's starting. We're sliding into like perhaps maybe a B-side in the true sense that even though this is the last song on the first side, we're starting to hit the little wave of songs where I use wave because it's a water reference. The wave of the songs where I'm like,
Is it worth noting that this album is pretty front loaded? Like it is very.
It's front loaded. It is.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I you definitely felt that listening again. In fact, when I sat down and go through it, I actually did the first half on one day, and I was like, okay, that's enough for today. Like, what I mean? And then, and don't get me wrong, like I enjoy a lot of the songs in the second half, and like seeing some of these live, like I still go crazy when they play "Through Being Cool," the titular song. Like, there's definitely some good stuff, but like, yeah, we're talking like the A+ material is those first 5 or so songs, and then the filler is kind of coming out in the back half,
which is fine.
Yeah.
which is fine. It happens. I mean, it happens more often, I think, on like real pop albums. Like, take any Britney Spears album, and the front half is going to be all the singles.
There you go.
Back half is not.
It is interesting. And not to like get ahead to a future episode, but like, I think "Stay What You Are" is like their most balanced. Like, I think that one, I feel like there is some gems on the second half that are like
the best song on that record is the penultimate song. This Is Not an Exit. I think that's the highlight of that record for me. I think that's the second to last song. Don't quote me on that. I have not looking at the track list.
Yeah, that's late there, and then "Firefly" is also late in that album. Like, there's just like, yeah, that feels like they finally like hit the balance on that next album. But we're here, and we are at the sweet fracture of where the best songs are to the songs we don't love as much.
What a segue.
For the song "My Sweet Fracture."
You want to know something interesting about this? "My Sweet Fracture." I remember that there was a tea that was called "My Sweet Fracture" by some like tea company from the Northeast, and it was like an official like wink at Save the Day. And I remember being like, "Oh, sweet, wow, cool. These people that make this tea also like they're being cool." That's the whole story.
I like that.
I like that. I have a brewery near me that one of the beers they have is "Thanks for All the Shoes."
There you
So
go.
I'm
No
like,
Effects
nice.
fan.
I'm like NoFX fan. All right, appreciate that. This song, "Sweet Fracture," continues well, the water thing, but also the violence.
Yes.
Yeah.
So violent, this song. There's a lot of violence going on. Because they're talking about choking. And he's like, "Do me a favor, can you let me know the next time you're choking? Because I want to shove more down your throat to ensure the choking is successful."
I don't know. This one goes for the same kind of so one of the themes that keeps cropping up in the second half of this record, I think, is that tricks that they pull in the first half to more effective results get diminishing returns in the second half of the album. And this is them trying again with the kind of like the huge "We Drive" Dave steps on like it's got like the big dramatic outro. "You and I are like," oh no. This is that's the difference on there's a big outro of this one too, isn't there? "Trying to stay afloat in shallow
water." Yeah.
Yeah. So again, perfect example, like a better example of that in the beginning of the first half of the album. It's just diminishing returns, and I don't know. It's fine. It's still it's not a song I skip, but it's not. There's songs that are better on this album built with the same toolkit.
Yeah, I agree. I think this one also, again, there's a little bit of a journey for the character as well. Like they come in really hot about this person. It feels like someone who's kind of screwed them over in some way. It doesn't necessarily have to be a romantic relationship. It could be a friendship that's gone sour, or a friendship that was not a great situation for the narrator. We go with the violence, and then we kind of end up with eventually kind of saying, like, literally saying to himself, "And I thought, slow down, Chris. Think of all this time this jerk has fucked you up and left you down. Like, is this even worth it?"
I would say no. I think that's a no. No, you're better up. His mom's right. You don't need someone like this.
I like how much he either misses his mom or contacts his mom when he needs advice of these characters in this.
Chris Conley's mom is a central figure in Save the Day mythology. She also bought the van that they toured the country in for Cancel It In.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because he doesn't go to Mr. Hawks.
No.
He goes with his mom.
Mr. Hawks was not helpful.
No.
In many ways.
In fact, I think Mr. Hawks probably was like made the situation worse because he probably allowed his daughter to go to the door.
In some ways, he made it worse. Yeah.
He made it worse. Bad job, Mr. Hawks. Speaking of the van, the next song with Vast Spoils, all I imagine is a van.
Yeah.
This is the touring song, right? This is the touring band song, yeah.
Which is very much spiritually connected to Shoulder to the Wheel, which I think is about the same kind of scene, just again written from a slightly different perspective, where like this one, instead of trying to get away from whatever they're doing, it's kind of like being appreciative of the moment. It's like, wow, look at what we're doing. It's kind of crazy that we're seeing the country here.
Well, and that it's you're seeing something that's unfamiliar. I mean, we're always talking about the East Coast, living that life where you're near the water, boardwalks, I mean, or suburbia in general. But then now you're out here and seeing the vast spoils. The spoils are you take ownership of that experience and you get to see things that are different. Also, I love the way he says California.
Pronunciation rules.
Pronunciation rules. I just the California. I just love it so much. And I remember that was like one of the first things I remember thinking about when I heard this album is the way he pronounces things is so interesting, and that's hilarious, Jeff. That I never thought about the fact that Blink would kind of take on that cadence when singing later. It's very Tom. That's very funny that you brought that up. I never thought about that.
Well,
Now that's all I'm going to hear now.
I'm dying just to taste your lips. Could we stomp around your backyard and wreck our clothes in the mud? Do you think there's a non-zero chance that Chris Conley had never kissed a girl, but when he wrote Through Being Cool?
So. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not? Sure. Let's say there's a depth chance there. I mean,
I remember thinking about what kissing was like before I had kissed someone, and then thinking back on those times with the knowledge of it. And I feel like some of my perceptions were off, and I can see certain tells in Chris Conley, and I think it's like the things he fixates on. Like I don't know, maybe it's just poeticism, but like doesn't like his interactions with women don't feel very lived in and real. They feel very heightened and kabuki.
Yeah, like something he saw in a movie,
right?
For sure. I also wonder like whether where he was at with his personal life at this point. Also, he's probably combing through journal entries and poetry he's written over the years too, which I'm sure not, some of these writers are writing the same things over and over again. So maybe he just kind of like started writing about this stuff at a certain age and kind of stuck.
I've heard stories where Rivers Cuomo has a spreadsheet, and he'll use that to go find. That's why the sentences never really seem to make any sense, because he uses a spreadsheet to find lyrics.
Huh.
That might be wrong.
I think I've heard similar anecdote. But you know what? Weezer has been an enterprise for decades now, so I get it.
Yeah.
What do you think about this song? It starts off about the road and like the feeling of being on the road, and then it kind of turns into a longing for somebody. Is that a metaphorical longing just to be home, or is this? I don't know. This is where I'm kind of like, what's this song about? Like, it could have just been about being on the road, but it felt like he was compelled by the end to turn it into a longing romance situation.
Yeah, I mean, I think this could be it could be reaching for something allegorical. It could also be stream of consciousness.
Yeah,
like literally he's driving, his friends are passed out. Look at those mountains, they're beautiful. Damn, I missed that girl. The end. It's like the kind of what happens when you're zoned out driving.
To answer your question, I think it's because none of this, what he's experiencing, feels real until he gets home to tell that person about the experience.
Okay, I like that.
That's cool.
It's like, because allegorically, let's look at how we grew up. We grew up where the scene was being built around us, but we didn't know it was a scene until later when we talked to people about it.
Right.
So I'm thinking it's kind of the same thing that I need to tell you all about this. I think we're gonna get back tonight. Can I come over? Is that cool if I come over? I have to tell you all the stuff I've seen, because they're not really real yet until I tell you.
Huh.
I like that a lot. Yeah.
I like it a lot.
Okay, that's it. Phil's gonna go home. You guys can finish the show.
No, that's perfect.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to say, like, this song is called "The Vast Spoils of America," parentheses, from the Badlands through the ocean.
Again, the water.
Yeah. Well, Badlands.
Where's the Badlands? That's like Idaho, right? Or Wyoming?
Yeah, but it makes me think of Bruce Springsteen, which makes me think of Jersey, which makes me think of Saves the Day, and then I get stuck in a loop.
And now you're in a loop. Just throw some gaslight in there, and you can hit all three of them.
Phil, what's the last lie you ever told, Phil?
That I was going to leave the show.
Oh,
did you threaten that already?
Wow.
No, like a second ago. I was like, thanks, guys. All right, Phil's going to leave.
Oh, yeah.
I thought you're talking like more on a collaborative basis.
Yeah, you're like,
I'm leaving the show.
Oh, wow. Wouldn't that would be something Chris Connolly would do. He'd be like, in the middle of the show, I'd be like, you know what? That's fine. I'm just going to leave the show.
Can I ask what he doesn't, and I think I confirmed this again this morning when I was looking at the lyrics. He doesn't explicitly say what the lie of the title is in this.
Nope.
What is the lie that
No.
he's telling, do you think?
Hang on, I wrote it down, and I sure hope my note isn't. What do you think the lie is?
Yeah. What do you think?
Last lie I told. Oh, okay. Hang on, I gotta go look at the lyrics because the way I think it is because that the last lie he told would be to himself that everything could stay the same. Because the whole song, right? The whole song is about change and things. This is the parking lot song. Okay, yeah, right.
Yeah.
He's in the parking lot. He's by himself. It is five. He's been there since it's 8:45. He's been there since 5:45. As a kid who grew up going to parking lots, by 8:45, you're all alone, bro. No one's coming. You're on your own.
Yeah.
And I think the parking lot metaphor, and that no one is coming, is symbolic of the change they're finding themselves in. People are finding other things or doing other things. And I think the last lie he told to himself was that a while ago that things would change. Because he remembers the warm nights, the open arms of 2 years ago. There's nothing like this parking lot and seeing the stars in the morning. And I think that's what it is. It's the fact that everything is changing around him. And that's a lot. The lie was that it wouldn't.
That makes a lot of sense.
I knew I had a note somewhere about
No,
this.
that I think that makes a lot of sense because I was also thinking, and it's kind of parallel to that, is kind of like the last lie I told again to myself was that I'm okay. Because this seems like
Totally.
looking
Yeah.
back to 2 years ago when things were great, and now alone in the parking lot, this realization that something's not right inside, and I've been fooling myself.
I think this is actually on the second side. I think this is one of the better songs on the second side.
I do too. Yeah, I think this is the second half. Well, no, because title track is the second half peak. But yeah, no, I would just be circling the same themes that you boys just highlighted. That's my take, and I think that it's yeah, it's one of the better songs on the back half, which is like we've said, an exercise in diminishing returns in some ways.
I mean, this is the emo kid in the parking lot by themselves. Like this is
the three of us know this scene very, very well.
100%. I remember once waiting in a parking lot when I was 17, 18, waiting for the girl to call me. Or no, I'm sorry, to page me. Because at that point I had a page or no cell phone.
Beeper filled. What an era.
What right? I don't know why I needed one. Because then you had a little cheat sheet. You had a little cheat sheet in your wallet with all the phone numbers down, people's names, so that you didn't have to really remember it because this prior to contact lists. And so you'd get the beep and you would be like, oh, who's this? You got to bust out the little card and marry up the two. Like, oh, okay. And I remember sitting in the parking lot near the payphone. I had my pocket full of quarters ready to call them when they beeped me, but they never did.
You know, what's funny. If this is very of its time, being in a parking lot and looking at all this, like the sky, wishing that the trees weren't there so you could see for miles. Because if this was today and you were an emo kid, you would just be on TikTok sitting in the parking lot. You know, you wouldn't even be
scrolling.
Yeah, you wouldn't even be sitting there with your feelings because you're numb by watching the content to distract you.
This is why I listen to loud music, so I don't have to think. And think about my feelings. No, that's just kidding. I actually embrace my feelings to a point. I think.
Yeah, and then you listen to this music loud and you think about it a lot and take notes on it. So there you go.
I take a lot of notes on it. No, it's actually more that I like listening to this music. I've said it before because I feel like, and Billy, you even said it before when we talked about this, you got into the scene that you weren't alone. There is others out there who feel the same way as you, and that is the beauty of this scene.
Want to play this one?
Yeah, let's play this.
All right, here is the last lie I told, and we are back. The next song title is a question. Do you know what I love the most?
What do you love the most?
What do you love, Jeff?
I love my friends.
Yeah.
My family. My dog. I love the beings in my life.
The animate objects.
Yes. The souls that I've connected with over the years and continue to connect with. Make it all worthwhile.
Do you know what I love the most?
What's that?
All the other songs on this record over this one. I think this is the this is a woofer of a song. This song has all the hallmarks of being written by a 19-year-old in the bad ways of saying that statement, I think.
Yes. The one glimmer I'll give it he references Johnny Cash. I'm a big Johnny Cash fan, so I'm okay with that. But otherwise, I don't know. It's very rosy. He's imagining life with this person. I mean, however, I can kind of relate to that. I know at certain points, I would imagine life. I imagine my first date with my wife way back when. I imagined life with her, and then became a ball up thinking of nervousness, and then literally puked when I got home after dropping her off. Drove up my house, opened the car door, and threw up. That's how nervous I was.
That's sweet though.
I think that's kind of sweet. But yeah, I puked all of my sneakers into the sewer. It was terrible.
Well, yeah, the more detail you give, the less sweet it gets, and the more visceral it becomes.
Also, why was it in your sneakers? Couldn't you?
Yeah, you could have directed the
little
flow.
different.
No, it was that quick, guys. It was almost
Wow.
projectile-y. It was just like, yeah, here we go. And then, yeah. So that was after my first date. I threw up.
I think that's adorable in its own way.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I think she does. I think in the end, I think she thinks it's cute.
Oh, yeah. I mean, here we are.
I mean, she wishes you would stop doing that every time you talk to her.
Sure.
But
it is true. It's very much like
expensive laundry.
What is that X-Men character? All he does is throw up. Like the Zeitgeist. Is that it?
Oh yeah.
I think that's.
Forget which guy character. Yeah.
That was an early trope on South Park too.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Go ahead. What were you saying, Jeff?
Oh no.
One of my biggest problems with this song is that Chris takes a big swing on writing something that's kind of sexy or / hot, and it just goes really, really, really south really fast for me. It's not good. Kiss your thighs to make you feel all right. Then I'll get closer to taste a little sweat. I think I'm raring to go. You're gonna get knocked out, tied up in my trunk. Like what?
That escalated very quickly.
Yeah, and it wasn't going well. It wasn't going well to begin with, and then to take like that big of a left turn as well, and then you're gonna get knocked out and tied up in my trunk. Doesn't that sound sexy and hot?
Yeah, and I also don't like there's no break between when he ties her up and then in 10 years we'll go to Ohio. Like, is she in the trunk for 10 years? Is that where she lives now? And then they go steal Cadillacs for a living.
Yeah, it's like that. It's just chock full of imagery that might have sounded better in his head than on the page.
Yeah, it just doesn't read right correctly at all.
The only thing I will say to this song, which I was thinking about, this to me, and I would not be surprised if this was an older song that was written around the Can't Slow Down era, because this one definitely feels more of that melodic hardcore. It's a very fast song. It's very So I feel like I wonder if this is a holdover from an earlier session.
It's a good thought. It might very well be. I hadn't even considered that.
I looked it up. It is the shortest of the songs.
There you go. Least memorable too in my eyes. So correlation.
Causation? I don't know. Let's talk about Through being cool.
Let's talk about it. Track here, not just record.
Record, because we've done that for the last X amount of time.
Jeff, you said how cool it is, how fun it is to encounter this song live even now in our 30s and 40s.
Yeah, this is just this is a bop, I think.
It's a bop.
And it's a simple song. It really, again, very adolescent era kind of thing. There's someone who's talking shit about you and like I'm pissed at them, and
unnamed characters.
Yeah.
Or undefined characters with proper names.
Yeah, Nick, mostly so he can rhyme with prick. I think it eventually
I think
was.
So.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, 100%. But whatever. I'm here for it. I just, again, the violence in this song, but stick some needles in his face and watch him on his knees. And my favorite line in this is that in Watching Me Season, I am not fooling. I am not fucking around anymore. I am done being cool. Done with it. I got a question for you guys.
Go on.
I have always thought, of course, I can't ask the question. I have to say something first, then ask the question. So I've always thought this should have been the last song on the album. Do you guys think this should have been the last song on the album? Either this and then like Flip Flop Band and this?
I think it would make a lot of sense. I mean, it very much, first of all, it being the title, this also feels like they had this song and they named the album after one of the songs in the album kind of feel.
Yeah.
Because I love the phrase "through being cool," and I think you're right. Like landing on a song that kind of brings us to what that even means is always a nice way to end an album.
Here's a fun thought exercise. What other song from this album would you have named the record?
Oh, that's
That is a good question.
I mean, All Star Me sounds like a
it's
really
not,
strong.
do you know what I love most?
No,
It's
which is
not that.
basically Stay What You Are feels like a kind of like, do you know what I love the most type album title.
Yeah.
I think like All Star Me, which is like right off the bat, is actually a pretty self-effacing thing to name this record if you were going to do that. But I don't think he's self-effacing enough across the scope of the album to name it that.
Just looking at the word value wise, I think Band from the Back Porch actually is a great title for an album.
Yeah.
You know, it feels very titley. That maybe Shoulder to the Wheel. And
If it
maybe
was a
Vast
Fiona
Spoil-
Apple record, it would be the Vast Spoils of America from the
Yeah.
Badlands through the
Yeah.
Earth.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right. Otherwise, that is a good title. I think it would be a good title.
It's also not
But-
the title of this record, though. No way is that what this record is about.
No.
No, I think Through Being Cool actually is a
They
good
got it
title
right.
for the
Yeah.
album. Yeah, they got it right. I think
Yeah.
ultimately it's where it lands. Lyrically, it's so much fun. Like, Nick, why are you such a he named him Nick just to get that rhyme in there. You know, and
Just to get them in.
I'm here for that. That's okay. Let's do that.
I just think the phrase "through being cool" is such a evocative phrase, because like I even to this day, it's like when I first heard the title "Through Being Cool," like, is there anything cooler than deciding that you're through being cool? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it really is like the place
Yeah.
you want to get to, where you're like above it. You're above it all.
Well, because you're cool. Yeah, it's cool, man. No, it's cool. Totally cool. Everything's cool. I'm cool. It's cool. But then you get to that point where you're like frustrated. I mean, because it sounds like this has been going on for a while. I mean, this is, unless he's never been cool, because it's always just kind of seething at the surface level. It's about to explode, all this anger toward Nick and sticking needles in his face. But I like the idea of I'm done being cool. I'm done being the cool guy and the nice guy. I'm now gonna stick needles in your face.
But he doesn't stick needles in face. What he eventually does, he drops a truth bomb on Nick, right? He
Yes.
has that line of like, "Nick, why are you such a prick? Why can't you just marvel in the hopes that make up this reality?" He's given Nick a little hack to life here. Like, you know, spend your energy on looking around and what we have here and what good things could come. Like, what are you doing? Like, I don't know. It feels like,
Well, because he's saying the world is what you make of it.
yeah.
So if you want to be a prick and just needle everybody else, and I'm not going to use needle that time, but needling other people and just kind of being a dick.
Yeah,
If
Jeff
that's-
Rosenstock says this. He says at some point, he's like, "Stop sneering at our joy like it's some careless mistake. Like, we're doing that. Like, this is a purposeful way of interacting with life, and you're choosing to be a dour prick, Nick. You know."
Stupid. It's always Nick. Blame Nick. Fucking Nick. Can we play this song?
Yeah, we absolutely. We're gonna play "Through Being Cool" off the out. Wait, Phil. It's not just a titular song. It's also the penultimate song.
Penultimate.
All in
song.
one.
All in one. Billy got to use penultimate earlier too. I was very excited when I heard that. I was like, oh wait, we're too early for the. That's right. I forgot. Yes, penultimate song.
Stepping on your tags for the show Bible. I'm sorry.
No, we love it. We love to hear it, and we love to hear "Through Being Cool." Here it is. All right, that was "Through Being Cool." How do you guys feel about an album that takes one of the songs and makes it the title?
Yeah, no, I mean, if it earns it, I always think it's kind of a shortcut to like, well, what's the mission statement? What's the premise of this record? Like, you would hope that song answers the question, right?
It better, because I feel it's lazy.
Well, you do, yeah, because it does put a lot of pressure on that song suddenly.
Well, it does. And so all of a sudden that song takes on a deeper meaning and has a higher, there's different cadence to it. For me, I like the idea of naming an album its own thing, because you name a song its own thing because the theme, the point of it, the point of the song, everything, like, it gets encapsulated with one title. And I feel then once you have a collection of songs put together, there could be a general theme. And I think that's where that title, you should name the album something on its own and let it stand on its own. Because then the album's collective versus you singling out a particular song.
Sometimes the song is the framing device, though. So you get like Sgt. Pepper's, right?
That's fair. That's fair. No, that's fair. That is fair. And I know, like, Take It Back Sunday often they're not the names of the songs, but they're part lyrically. There's always like a lot of the times we'll take a lyric and make that a title. Like Tell All Your Friends, that's in one of the songs,
Yeah.
but it's not a title. So I'm not against that. Billy, it's a really good point, though. With like sometimes it means something. Like Dark Side of the Moon. I'm gonna go to Pink Floyd for 2 albums. The Wall and Dark Side of the Moon. They're both song titles, but
Right.
they really do sum up the album and the point of the album. So I guess I would prefer you didn't, but
Sometimes
if it's what matter. If I think Billy, you said if it earns it, then go ahead.
sometimes they write the song and it doesn't make the record too. So like that happened to Queen, and they had a song called I want to say the song was called Sheer Heart Attack, and it wasn't on the album Sheer Heart Attack. It came after this. That maybe I'm transposed that, but the one that really stands out to me is again my favorite band. Right when they ask what's your favorite band, so Radiohead had a song that began life called OK Computer. It didn't finish life called OK Computer. It would end up being renamed Palo Alto. But the chorus to that song was "I'm okay, how are you? Thanks for asking," and it didn't fit the other songs of OK Computer. So the song OK Computer didn't make the album OK Computer. And like that's when you're a band that can make that judgment call and self-edit that well.
Mhm.
That's pretty cool.
That's a good question, Jeff. What do you think? You didn't answer.
Yeah, what do you think, Jeff?
I mean, I think it's interesting. It depends. I'm actually thinking a lot about Taylor Swift right now because I've noticed that sometimes she does name the album after a song, and sometimes she doesn't, which is interesting. Like this latest album, Midnights, they're all songs about midnight, but there's no song Midnights. But then Evermore has a song Evermore.
But Midnights is referenced.
Lover has a song. Yeah.
Yeah.
Midnights is reference. Yeah.
Antihero. Yeah. Antihero references.
All the songs are like.
Oh, that's right. They do.
Midnight. Yeah. I mean, I we'll go back to like one of my favorite bands, My Chemical Romance. I mean, the album's The Black Parade. The song is Welcome to the Black Parade. So it's kind of like that. But Three Cheers for Sweet Revenge, that there's no song like that. And that title really captures the spirit of all the songs.
Right.
I think it's case by case.
Case by case. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Talk about band from the back porch.
All right.
Not the front porch.
No.
Back porch.
What's the significance of that?
The back porch? I don't know. I've never thought of. See, it's funny because this song is confusing because he talks about the patio, which is usually on the rear of the house, and I usually find porches to be on the front of the house, but it's banned from the back porch. And I was because I'm weird, so I had to look something up. So a patio is an uncovered thing. A porch is a covered thing.
Okay.
Does that help with understanding the song? I don't know.
Well, not even the slightest for me, unfortunately.
All I know is he's gonna go. He saw this girl and instantly fell in love, and we're gonna repeat the cycle. Is what I'm thinking is gonna happen.
This one feels the most disconnected from its title for me. Like we've been talking about the other songs, and like I feel like this song is called "Banned from the Back Porch" because it's a fun turn of phrase. It sounds good in your mouth. Like I don't know what it means in context to this song. Help me out, Jeff.
Well, the way I took it is I took this back into the whole cover of the album at a party, and the character is on the back porch not engaging. Kind of everyone's out on the patio where the party is outside, where that's where the keg is. And I'm pulling a lot of my own thoughts into this, but this idea of being in the back porch, banned in the back porch means it's go time. Like you can't stay on the porch. You have to go out there and go talk to this girl.
Okay, yeah.
That's kind of how I pulled it together.
You gotta go do it now. You're banned from this. You're banned from standing on the sidelines. You got to get in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's exactly. That's the whole point of it. So it's self banishment. He has been banished, in the words of the sheriff in Romeo and Juliet. I think that's what it is, or the king. Who knows? Banished.
Yeah, and he just goes over and he sees this girl. After he banishes from the porch, and he just stands there, his eyes open wide, his mouth open wide, maybe, I don't know, and his gut falls to the floor. And
I love the liquid courage moment with his warm ginger ale.
Yeah,
gonna take one swig of this, and I'm off and going to go talk to this girl who makes me. I threw up, so why not? Yeah, that's a connection there. I just love the over the topness of it, of the end. Like where was this girl all these crazy years? Maybe that's why this is the last song. Is because it's a song where everything that preceded it is always him in a broken up relationship or like heartbroken or all this, and here it is kind of I think he saw it or they saw it as a hopeful ending because he's gonna take that step and go talk to the girl. who he has instantly fallen in love with.
Yeah, I mean, I think again, going back to the more adolescent viewpoint of like love at first sight, like I think that if the hopeful reading of this is the end of the album is after all the shit he's been through with these other situations, this is the one. Like this is the How I Met Your Mother moment, and that's why it kind of ends with that. Like we don't even get to hear what happens when he finally does talk to her. We're left to kind of interpret like, oh, is he right? Is his gut right about this one?
And that's my concern, that it doesn't go great and the cycle repeats. Like this really isn't really the last song. This is the first song.
Oh,
you know what I mean? That's always but again, I get so sequencing wise, I can see why this is the last song. I don't think it should be. I think Through Being Cool is the better song to end with. Just because the way it plays out, Through Being Cool plays out at the end. I just think that's the better song to end with.
You could tell by how little I've had to say about Band from the Back Porch, unfortunately, that I agree. It's an odd part of what I think you two are especially going to interrogate as this show lodges more episodes is the epic closing track.
mm-hmm.
And this album does not rise to that occasion, which is fine. Again, this is still a record that's iconic and classic, and we're talking about it a quarter of a century later. But yeah, it ends with a whimper.
Yeah.
From where it begins and how blisteringly world changing it comes out of the gates with.
Well, there are no perfect albums. There are some that are damn close.
Damn close.
But there are no perfect albums.
That's a hot take. I feel like someone would do. I'm not going to fight you on that, but I feel like someone would fight you on that.
I'm sure there will be. You can find a flaw in any song, any album. There's always gonna be something that's just a little off, and nothing's ever really true.
Well, I think just the act of trying to put together, let's say, 10 to 14 songs that are going to be perfect. You almost can't. The artistry of constructing an album is you can't have a perfect album because you need to have these ebbs and flows, which not everything's going to hit everyone the same way.
Yeah, it can't just be chorus, banger, 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 banger.
Right.
Well, look at this album.
Then it's an Andrew WK record, which has its own merits. Not for nothing.
Yeah.
And there's an audience for that, and that's where I'm at. But no, like the ebb and flow of this album, like the first, we said it, Billy said it earlier, front loaded. It's a front loaded album, and then has moments of shining on the second half. And though this one goes counter to the thing I always generally believe in, is that side B is better than side A, and this is an album where I don't think that's the case.
No, you can't make that case when in good faith. That you're being contrarian at that point if you try to argue that the second half of this record is better than the first.
Well, then I would just be through being cool. Then I'm be done being cool, and I'm going to slap you across the face, metaphorically.
Stick some needles. Yeah.
In my
metaphoric needles, because it's community, not competition, right?
Yeah, what a nice trip down memory lane, going track by track on that one with you guys was.
It was fun listening to this again. I listened to it a bunch, just because I wanted to back up my own assertions when I was listening to it. And I was like, yeah, it's funny. Did you guys, at any point, did you change an opinion on a song?
Yes.
Right? It was the creepy ones.
No, those were already on their way down in esteem with me. I was always a shrug for a shoulder to the wheel. I didn't think it was of those 5 songs that begin the record and are all impeachably like A+ songs, unimpeachably. I used to put Shoulders to the Wheel at the bottom of that, and I don't know if that was me being contrarian and being like, oh, I can't think the most popular song is the best one.
Yeah.
And I still don't think it's the best one. I think that's You Vandal, but like Shoulder to the Wheel grew in my esteem listening to it during the last couple of weeks, getting ready to talk to you guys about it.
What about you, Jeff?
No, I feel like for the most part, like they kind of fell exactly as I've always liked them. Like, I mean, I literally like the first 5 songs on this album, as we've been talking about, and I always liked Through Being Cool, and those are my favorite 6 songs on the album. So it didn't change. Like, it felt like even though I spent more time studying, what the closer reading of the songs I didn't love as much only made me like realize my gut was right about that. Like it was.
Yeah. I agree with you there. I think it was more the realization. I was like, yeah, I knew I didn't like this song. I knew there's a reason. Now
That's
now I know why it's a creepy one. All right, I want to ask you guys some questions. I think we're at that point. We've gone through the album, all 12 songs, half of which are bangers, half of which are not bangers. And I want to ask you guys, what do you think is the best song on the album? Jeff, I'm going to start with you. What is the best song on the album?
Well, Billy just said it, and I agree, and I always have agreed, but it's You Vandal.
You Vandal.
No,
Billy,
I think
is that coming to you too, Billy?
it is. You Vandal is
Yeah.
the best. You Vandal is the best Saves the Day song. Not only the best song on this
Oh,
record.
bigger take. I like that. I like Rock's Tonic Juice Magic. I think it's the best song. I don't
There
know.
you go.
I don't know why. I don't know. It's because it's got the line in it. The
You love that
ocean
line,
with
yeah.
I do. I love that line that much that I'm willing to go on there. What, Jeff, do you think is the skip? What are you gonna skip?
I'm gonna skip. Well, there's a couple I would probably skip, but
Yeah, yeah.
uh,
Which one are you gonna skip right now?
do you know what I love the most?
Yeah. Billy, what do you think? What are you gonna skip?
I have to stay with Jeff here. Do you know what I love the most is the easiest song to skip on Through Being Cool?
It is a trifecta. Do you know is the easiest one to skip? It is the oddest song for this album. It just didn't
Ugh.
fit. It's just weird. I don't like it. Now what I think is actually probably the most fun question to ask is, Jeff, what do you think is the sleeper song?
Hollyhocks, Forget Me Nots. I think you throw that on a party with people of a certain age, even though it's not the number one song you think of. I think everyone's gonna be in a good mood.
But they'll start bopping around and be like,
Yeah.
okay, I remember this song. Yeah, sure. Billy, what do you think? What is the sleeper song?
So weird to say that the opening track on an album could possibly be the sleeper song, right? But the gravity of You Vandal being second, being so strong and massive that it's easy to forget that All Star Me is such a great track, and it really sets the stage for the record. And it has that wonderful plugging in sound effect, like you said. Like,
Love it.
yeah, I think All Star Me unintentionally gets slept on just because of where it's sequenced right before the greatest Saves the Day song on their best album. So what are you gonna do?
I love that thought. I love the way you approach that. For me, I think it's Last Lie I Told. I actually think it's such a sleeper song because of how vague it kind of is, but like yet gives away what it's about, I think. So I'm gonna say Last Lie I Told.
Very cool. I like all those choices, especially the ones I agreed with, but I liked all the rationale behind your choices that I didn't make the same choice of.
Oh, we're not even on everything. I think that doesn't happen too often. Everybody's even the whole way. But no, I like the mix. Good mix here today.
Mhm.
Billy, real quick, anything you're listening to right now that you're really excited about? It doesn't necessarily have to be of this genre, but like what are kind of like in 2023, what's your go-to like bands and artists right now?
I have been enamored with Big Thief's output for the past couple of years. They have a new record coming out probably before the end of the year, and I'm excited by that, if not 2024. Yeah, I'm listening to as far as music that's been out for quite some time. Ever since Edgar Wright kind of shined the light on Sparks again, I've been trying to dig through their decades-long catalog, and they're on tour right now, so I'm going back through some of the Sparks records that I haven't listened to, in addition to the ones I already love, like Propaganda and Kimono My House, as well as their most recently released one, which is excellent, and that single, The Girl's Crying in Her Latte, with Kate Blanchett doing that funky dance.
So good.
Yeah, so good. So very much digging that. And yeah, I really think that this is kind of a very much like I'm in my 40s and going to be a dad pick, but I would encourage you to check out an artist called Westerman, who is he's kind of doing some new interesting things with like the Sade palette, like soft rock, but really smart. And the Big Thief connection there is James, the percussionist in Big Thief, and also their band producer, produced this record, and you can hear his influences on Westerman's most recent release, which is called An Inbuilt Fault, which is a very pretentious title for a record, but it's worth listening to. So those are my current picks, I'd say.
Very cool. And if people wanted to follow you on social media, where would they find you?
You have to ask permission because I have a private account. I have a kid on the way, but please, if you're a friend of the show, you're a friend of mine, and it's just my name at Billy Keenly on Instagram or Threads, which is now a thing.
Good old Threads.
Good old
You can
Threads.
also good old Threads. You can find the Millennial Diner podcast in a bunch of places right now. You can find them on the Instagram. You can find them on the YouTube. You can also find them on Threads as well as on Facebook. Quick thanks out to our executive producer, my wife, because she always puts up with me throwing up after first dates. So I appreciate that.
And don't forget, if you want to do your own podcast, Spotify makes it very easy.
Very easy.
Do a podcast where you talk about some of your favorite music, and then you can throw the songs right on there. That's what we like to do. We encourage you to do the same.
And if you do it, you should invite us to come onto your show.
Oh,
We're
absolutely.
nice guys. We'd be good guests. We'd have fun stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
I would love to reverse the role once and be the guest versus the host, and just to see what that experience is like.
I'm gonna make it my business to conceive of and execute a podcast concept just to have you as a guest now, Phil.
I can't wait. I can't wait. What's the name of your show gonna be?
Deep sexual explorations with Billy, I think, if I had to guess.
Yeah. It's pretty obvious.
I mean, what else were you gonna do? We said that a couple of times. You're gonna listen to music, you're gonna go hang out in parking lots, and you're gonna discover your sexuality. It's being a teenager.
Try to think of a really clever title for your show.
Yeah, well, good luck. You're a titles guy, right?
Yeah, I'm a titles guy. I don't know.
I didn't mean to paint us into a corner with my awkward joke to end the episode, but here we are.
Well,
yeah,
that's okay. The best way to end this episode is just to take out an awkward saw and get to it.